Hi guys, welcome to my channel, The Golden Cruiser. I'm Cindy, and today we're going to be talking about reasons you could be denied boarding your cruise. So in today's video, I'm going to go over some reasons that you could be denied boarding your cruise. So grab your favorite drink, maybe a snack, sit back and relax, and let's talk about cruising. Number one is don't let your emotions get the best of you. Now, maybe right before your cruise, you've seen that they made an itinerary change or something has changed that you booked. You call up the cruise line and you're storming mad. You're yelling at them. You're screaming at them. You might be cussing at them. Well, don't do this. This could get you kicked off the cruise before you ever get on it. You need to be respectful, talk calmly, and just voice your opinion of what's happening in a calm manner, because you could actually end up being banned for life if you are not treating crew members, even the people on the phone, nicely. It's not their fault. An itinerary was changed or something happened. They're just an employee working there answering your call. So be kind, even if you're really mad or upset. I know it might make me mad or upset, but you've got to try to control your temper when talking with them. Number two is incomplete or missing documents. You get to the terminal and you don't have your proper documents. Maybe your name on your reservation doesn't match your ID that you're giving to them. Maybe you just got married and so your ID doesn't match. One is one name, one is the other. You have to show proof of your name change. So if you just got married, you probably need to take your marriage certificate with you if you haven't changed it yet on your ID. But always check with the cruise line first. Don't just take my word for it. So make sure anything you have, like a birth certificate, a passport, your driver's license, that has to match exactly what you booked to get online when you filled out your boarding information. So make sure everything matches or you could be denied boarding. Number three is hidden travel restrictions. Now, sometimes if you have past legal records, especially in places like Canada, even a decade-old DUI can stop you from getting into Canada. They have very, very strict rules, even about driving issues. So if your ship leaves from like Seattle or Vancouver, you're going on like an Alaska cruise, they always stop in Victoria, Canada. So if you have any kind of police record, the Border Patrol may say you can't enter, and then they won't even let you get on the cruise ship. You'll be denied boarding to even go on that cruise. So if you or someone has a criminal record, check with an immigration expert before you even book the cruise to make sure on that particular cruise you can go. It's just certain countries that are very strict. So you'll want to check that out because it might ban you from getting on your whole cruise. So make sure and check that out. Number four, keep your cruise details private. Now, I know a lot of us get really excited. They have that little countdown on your app, and you might want to share that on Facebook or somewhere, that your cruise is coming up in 30 days or whatever. Be very careful of this. Usually your boarding booking number is on that. If you're going to post that, you might want to cross out that booking number. You do want to cross out that booking number. You don't want to give information like the ship's name or the exact dates that you're sailing on, because scammers are out there looking for things like this. I heard of an incident where this family was saving up for years to take this dream vacation, and they have purchased a suite. And then they got to the cruise terminal and they said, "We don't have a booking for you. Your booking was canceled." Well, this woman had went online and showed her countdown calendar and had the booking number on it, didn't cross it out. If someone gets a hold of your booking number, they can go in on the app or go into the website. All they need is your booking number, and they can get into your information, make changes on your booking, or completely cancel it. Now, I don't know why they canceled it, to be mean, or maybe they wanted to book a suite and the ship was full. So they tried to change the name on it to their name or something like that, but they were completely denied boarding. They said the reservation was canceled. So be really careful about that. Don't share your information out there. I know a lot of times on this social media network here on YouTube, I'll say I'm going on a cruise. I usually say like right now, I'm going on a cruise in November. I don't say what specific ship. I don't say, what date I'm going or anything. And I for sure don't post my booking number anywhere. You want to be real careful of that booking number. Because like I said, anyone can get into your booking if they have your booking number. Number 5 is check more than the date. Now, when you're taking your passport with you, you want to check the date on there way before you sail. Get your passport out and check the expiration date. Some itineraries, depending on where you're going, they require that your passport must not expire within 6 months of your cruise or you cannot board. So you would have to update your passport, renew your passport so that the date, is not 6 months before. But not only that, but if you have a worn out looking or torn pages on your passport, slightly damaged, they can mark it as invalid and you will not get on board. You'll be denied boarding. So if you're looking at your passport and it looks pretty worn out, you might want to consider getting a new passport before you get to that cruise terminal to get on board, because you may be denied and not get on board. So make sure and get a new one if that's happening. Number 6 is don't forget your paperwork. Now, if you're traveling with a minor that isn't your child, say a grandchild sailing with you or a friend of your child's, make sure you have the proper documents that are needed from the parents. Now, depending on where you're going and the cruise line, you might need a notarized letter from the parents, or some cruise lines have a form you print out that the parent signs stating you're allowing them to go on the cruise with this person and naming you. So make sure you have the proper documents and the child's birth certificate. If they're a minor, they will need their birth certificate. So make sure you check with the cruise line. Now, I've seen this before where people go on a Facebook cruise group and ask the question, I'm a grandmother, I'm sailing with my granddaughter, what do I need? And they might say, oh, just a handwritten note from the mother. And then they go, okay. And then they get to the cruise port, and guess what? Handwritten note from mom didn't work. You can't get on board. Don't ask strangers on Facebook what you should do in all these situations. I see this every day. They're asking these people that they don't even know. What if the people are wrong? Each cruise line is different. Call the cruise line and get the correct information so that you don't get to the cruise port and you can't board. So make sure and check that out, especially if you're taking minor children without the parents. Now, sometimes there's some rules if one parent is sailing without the other, that they need a letter. Now, I think this just depends. Like my son goes with me with his child without the mother. They're divorced. But we never need to have, this is U.S. cruises in the U.S. Or into Alaska and Canada. He has never needed a second letter from her. I usually go in and I check the individual cruise lines. I read what it says about minors, and his last name matches hers. He has her birth certificate and it shows he's the father. So we've never had an issue with that. But some cruise lines or some places that sail, they need a letter from the other parent if one person is taking it. So taking the child. So make sure you check that out because each cruise line is different. Number 7 is be careful what you pack. Now make sure whatever you're packing is not banned from the cruise line. Some people think that things like CBD cream or CBD gummies, which are okay to have where they live, are okay for the cruise ship, but they're not. And it can get you banned for life. Just taking on some CBD gummies to help sleep or something, or even CBD cream is banned. There's a lot of other things that are banned a lot. So check online. There will be a list of items that are banned that you can't take on board, because if you do take certain one of these items. You don't want to take anything like guns or knives or marijuana, drugs or things like that. That'll get you banned like for life and might get you put in jail depending on what you're bringing. But other things like irons or, certain things like that you can't have on board and they'll confiscate them. So just look at the list before you pack to make sure you're taking the correct things and not taking something you can't have on there. Number 8 is don't run late. Now you don't want to miss embarkation day, the day you're boarding, cutoff time. Even if the ship sails at 4 p.m., they usually close the boarding 90 minutes before. You need to check with the ship on this, but usually that's the time. But don't take my word for it. Call the cruise line. So if you arrive after the cutoff time, even if the ship's still there, it hasn't left yet, it's still sitting there, they're not going to let you board. So once the cutoff time hits, that's it. They're not opening those gates back up again to let you on the ship. So the best thing to do, if possible, come in the day before on your cruise, stay in a hotel close to the cruise port so you're not in traffic. Don't book a flight the same day that could be delayed or canceled or get you there late, or you might be driving somewhere in traffic. So just plan ahead of time a little better so that you make sure you're there in plenty of time and you don't miss your cruise. Number 9 is pregnancy limits. Now, most major cruise lines won't let a pregnant woman beyond 23 to 24 weeks board the cruise. So make sure if you are pregnant that you call the cruise line and ask them, how far along can they be to cruise, because after a certain point you can't cruise. And they're not prejudiced against pregnant women. They do this because they don't have proper medical facilities on board if something went wrong, with your pregnancy. So just check that out. And number 10 is ID confusion. Now, some people think with this new real ID that's out there and the airlines say this is all you need now to board, you can use a real ID. Well, they think they can just use their real ID for every single cruise they go on. Well, that's not true, depending on what cruise. If you're going to another country, you need other things because the real ID is not in all the countries, it's not even in all the states. So the best thing to have is a passport. You can possibly have a passport, and if you travel a lot, then there's no reason not to have a passport. But just know that real ID is not going to work for every cruise, depending on where you cruise, where you're sailing from. So just check with the cruise line before you go to find out if your real ID is going to work on there or if you need a passport. Again, it depends on the cruise line and where you're sailing to. Number 11 is don't overlook the new visa rules. Now, starting this year, if you're flying into or out of the UK, you need an ETA, an electronic travel authorization. This has to be filled out before you can go board your cruise. And soon, I don't know what the exact date is, you will also need an ETIAS, which is their version of a pre-travel screening system. You will need to fill that out. There's no option for this. If you don't do it, you're not boarding. You're not even getting on the airline to get over to the UK. So these are not options. These are things you have to do. So make sure and check your destination requirements at least 90 days in advance before your cruise. And number 12 is think twice. Some cruisers, after they sailed and they weren't happy with their cruise, something they didn't like about it, they go to their credit card company that they charged that cruise on and file a complaint against them or make, some reason why they want their money back and get a refund from their credit card company. Well, if this happens, the cruise is going to ban you for life. Because if there's an issue with your cruise, if you really weren't happy or something went wrong, you need to contact the cruise line and not say nothing to them and go directly to your credit card company and complain to them and get your money back. You don't want to get banned for life. And the cruise line will ban you for life unless you pay them back. If you had the credit card refund your money, if you then pay the cruise line back and they have a resolution for you, give you another cruise or something, then you won't be banned. But don't do that. That is not a good thing to do. And most credit card companies, you're going to have a pretty good reason to do that. I worked in banking for over 40 years, so I know it's a regulation and you have to have a good reason. And they do research into the cruise ship as to why they're charging this back. Not always will you get your money back for just complaining you didn't like your cruise. That's not going to work. Number 13, the health forms. Now that you always have a health form to fill out before you go on your cruise, asking you if you've had a cold recently or the flu, have you had a runny nose, a cough, things like that. Now some people might mark down, yes, I had a runny nose and a cough. Now actually, in truth, it's because you have allergies. But the cruise line doesn't know this. They think maybe you have COVID or the flu or a cold, and they won't let you board because they think you're sick. So if you know for sure it's allergies, you have seasonal allergies, and that's why your nose was running or you're coughing, you might not want to list that on the form because it could end up getting you not being able to board because they think you're sick. But if you are sick, if it is from a flu or cold, you want to be honest about that because ships are very contagious. I mean, flu bugs, colds, COVID, norovirus, they just spread like wildfire through a cruise ship. So you don't want to board sick. If you're sick, cancel your cruise and rebook when you feel better. Don't get everybody else sick on that cruise. That's just horrible to do. But if you do have like seasonal allergies and you're going to board and you seem like you're sick, maybe you're really congested or something, make sure you take a doctor's note with you showing that it's seasonal allergies so that they don't think you're really sick right then and then deny you boarding. So just be careful of that. Number 14, oversold cruises. Now, this doesn't happen all the time, but it can happen. I've seen it happen to people. They get to the cruise terminal and they're told, sorry, you can't get on board. We've overbooked the ship and we don't have anywhere to put you. Now, usually this happens for passengers who have not booked their specific cabin. Maybe you went on there and you're letting the cruise pick a guaranteed cabin for you, which they can pick any room they want for you. They usually pick what's left after everyone's booked them, and then they'll pick that cabin for you. And sometimes you get that cabin number at the last minute. You don't even know where you are on the ship. But if they have overbooked the cruise, you're going to be one of the last people that they're going to put on the ship. They're going to put you down on the list because it's a guaranteed cabin. You haven't picked your cabin. So be careful of that. That might be another reason why you may not want to book a guaranteed cabin because you may get booted off the ship. Now, a lot of times they might offer you to make arrangements for another cruise and maybe at a discount, or they'll give you, offer you some deals or something. Or sometimes you're just handed a letter that says, sorry, the cruise is overbooked and you're kind of out of luck. They give you your money back, but that doesn't compensate for your travel and everything there. So just be cautious of that. Like I said, it doesn't happen often, but I've heard of a couple times that it has happened to people. And number 15, the last one, is cruise deals. Now, sometimes you might be online on Facebook or somewhere and you see these cruise deals show up on there with this great cruise deal, the price, the money, everything seems too good to be true, but you think, man, I'm going to book this. This is great. I haven't seen prices like this anywhere. And then you book it and it turns out to be a scam or a fraud, and you end up not getting on your cruise because it's fake and they've taken your money. So make sure you either are booking with the cruise line or a cruise line agent or going online to the cruise line, the actual cruise line. Make sure you're on there. Check the website or a travel agent. Make sure it's a travel agent you've used before or someone recommends, because there have been travel agents that are also scam artists and take your money. So be real cautious of that. I always book through the cruise line. I did book through travel agent before when I lived in the same town with one that I knew very well. But nowadays I just book through the cruise line. So just be cautious of that. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. So be careful. So there you have it. Some reasons you could be denied boarding, and you don't want any of that to happen. I can only imagine that would be horrible to get to your cruise that you planned for months and months, so excited to get there and everything, and then you're standing there and something's wrong and you can't board. That would be devastating. So just make sure you have all your ducks in a row. Make sure everything is correct, right, before you go, and then you'll have a wonderful trip. So thanks for stopping by today. If you liked my video, please give it a thumbs up and please consider subscribing to my channel. It really helps me. So everyone have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you again real soon on the Golden Cruiser. Bye for now.